You got to show up regularly and in a way that it's like an income producing activity, as I like to call it. So just posting on Facebook, if it works for you, great. But the 99% of us, it does not, right? And we end up giving up in this industry way too soon.
Welcome to the Other 99% podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Duck, a coffee-loving direct sales enthusiast who's obsessed with a good digital system. Come join me for a realistic look into the world of direct sales. We'll explore inspiring perspectives, learn about unique business tips, and celebrate success stories that often go untold. Because on the Other 99%, every seller matters.
Hey everyone, it is me, Lisa, and welcome back to another episode of The Other 99%. I'm here with our co-host, Susan Larimer, and Susan has introduced me to Marla. Marla's from Lemongrass too, and Marla, I'd love for you to come in and just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and all that stuff.
Well, thank you, Lisa and Susan, for bringing me on today. Well, I am originally from Toronto, Canada, and moved from there to Florida for 21 years. And now for the last 2 years, I'm in Michigan, which I absolutely love. I love. I've been in direct sales for just over 14 years and with the same company as well. So Lemongrass Spa, and I absolutely adore it. But it wasn't something that I thought I would ever do. I'm sure we hear that a lot, right?
Yeah.
I had adult acne for most of my life, and I was on a hunt to find a natural skincare line that would work, And I was on prescription medications, and it would bleach my pillowcases and my hand towels, and I thought, man, what is it, doing to me? And so I started some research, and I always read labels and things like that, but I never thought much about what was, going on my skin. And so I started doing some research and, tested out some products. And then I was invited to a party, and that was the beginning of it. And it was, I started with some samples and they didn't make me break out. And I actually contacted the owner of Lemongrass Spa, Heidi Lease. And she was so gracious and so warm and wonderful. And she actually sent me a box of goodies. And long story short, fast forward 14 years later, and I'm still with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, so Marla and I know each other. Well, I've been with Lemongrass Spa for 11 years, so I've known her since then. She is my up line. So far up that she doesn't make any money off of me, but she still invests her time and love into me. So we invited Marla to talk about leadership today. We just got home from conference. She did a workshop on leadership, and she leads in a very different way. And I can attest to that. When I was in Lemongrass Spa for the first, 4 years, I guess. I knew Marla was there, but I didn't know my immediate director. She reached out when I hit big goals, but other than that, I never heard from her. And so when I resigned as a speech therapist in 2018, I reached out to Marla because every week I would get her newsletter. I knew who she was. And I'm like, Marla, I have nobody taking care of me and I need some guidance, some leadership. And she invited me to the Tuesday morning call. So she already had a group meeting every single Tuesday morning from 10 till 11, sometimes till noon. And she invited me to be a part of that call. And I've been on that call consistently since 2018. Marla has been my leader. I still don't really know who my upline is. I know who she is, but she doesn't do anything for the team. But Marla just took me under her wing and just has taught me so much and been there. That Tuesday group, we laughed together, we cried together, we got through COVID together. That group is just so precious to all of us. So Marla was asked to do a workshop on leadership, right person to ask for that at our conference. And so I just invited her to share a little bit about that workshop that she did. She's going to talk about some of the reports she runs, how she reads with authenticity and from the heart. And so we're just going to dive in. So Marla, if you want to share maybe how that training came about, or how did it come to be?
That is a great question. I think, we are all in direct sales, right? And like you said, people come in from all different walks of life, all different background and experience. I had zero experience in sales, none. I was a dental hygienist, as I like to say, in my past life. So who am I to think that I could not only sell, but lead? Like, what is that, right? And so I often, for many years carried this like imposter syndrome of I sh- I'm not like I can't do this. I'm not capable. I just don't have the experience, right? And so over the years, I've heard from leaders within Lemongrass that we hear of the top people, the ones that are breaking all the records, the ones that are like, do it like she does type of deal, right? But a lot of leaders reached out to me saying that, you know what, I just want to feel like like I'm doing it right, like I'm okay, like I may not be, in the bright lights and recognized company wide, but I feel like I'm failing, or that I'm doing good, but no one seems to notice. So anyways, this came to me from leaders. And so when the company reached out to me about doing a presentation, I actually went back and said, if you want me to do this, it's going to be a little different because I lead differently, right? I have a really large organization, Susan, as you know, within the company, and I have like top people like that are just, taking this and soaring. And I have others that are like, you know what, this fits into my life and I love my little team so much, but I'm not that. And am I still good enough? Right. And so that is how this all came about, was doing that. And, and I can totally relate. Like I said, I could totally relate. I had that imposter syndrome. So that's how it first came about.
And you lead very much with authenticity, and you teach all of your downline and everyone on your team to lead where you are. I know you had asked, you and the other director, Jill, who was doing the workshop with you, you said, have you ever thought you wanted to be like so and so? But your answer was like, sure, I do want to be like so and so. They're a rock star, but it's not who I am. So tell us a little bit about maybe what you do to lead differently.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. That was a question. That was the first question that we led with during the presentation was, have you ever wished you could be more like so-and-so in your organization? You guys know in your fields, in your companies, you have your superstar, your rock stars, right? So have you ever wished you could lead or be more like? And we both asked each other that same question. And, my answer was 100% absolutely. My favorite a word that I dislike so much is should. I should do this. I should be more like, if only, I did. And that is such, a word that just derails you. It cuts you at the knees, because when you say you should and don't, that means you failed in your mind. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this. And so because I didn't do this, now how do I go about doing something? And so we tend to stop ourselves, right? Like right in the process of that. And so I think, as leaders, if we come into this, our authentic self, people are going to resonate with that. They're going to see that. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to memorize. You don't have to learn a script. You're just yourself, and you come in and you ask, as leaders, that's the one thing I think is a little bit different in leadership. And I've learned over the years, we come in initially sort of managing, learning where everything is. We're managing how to do things, right? Like we have to learn how to use our back office. We have to learn how to place orders. We have to learn how to do all this stuff. So it's like we're managing our business. In leadership now, you're kind of changing it a little bit and you're becoming more of a coach. Well, I had never been to taken a class on coaching. I'm not certified with any coaching background. And I think the majority, the 99% of us right out there are not coaches. So I think, having just a few questions that can help guide your perspective, people that you're meeting that maybe aren't in your team, but especially those that are in your team, are in your downline. Have they ever considered a leadership role? And for some, you can come direct and say, hey, have you ever thought about becoming a director? Have you ever thought about, but most would be like, whoa, like, no, I don't even know what that is, right? And so you could be pushing people away with that, right? So I think if using business metrics, if you guys, again, if you haven't done that as a leader in your business, that's basically running reports. So if you haven't been running reports in your back office as a leader, I highly recommend it. It does take a few minutes of your time, and you can, talk to those in your company on how to do it. But basically, you're plugging into your back office numbers, metrics, so that you can pull up the people that you want to talk to, right? And so in my particular case, I do a green by 15. And the reason why, what is behind that is because I want to front load the month. I want to provide incentives for those on the team that are working their business early in the month, right? Because that's when the work gets put in, and then the last 2 weeks of the month, that's where you're going for maybe goals, or you're going for whatever it is, you're wrapping up the month. But if you can get a great start in the first 2 weeks of your month, you are much more likely to hit whatever it is. So I do it in a fun way. That's the thing, right? Like, it's got to be fun. It can't be like this. You got to get this. You got to do this. No, do it in a fun way. Do it authentically. And so that's what I do for my team. So in order to figure out who's green by 15, I have to run reports, right? So you put in your metrics of the volume you want them to have and that sort of thing. And you can click on if you're working with just your leaders, or sales consultants only, or team leaders, or whatever it is in your particular company, how your title ranked. You can choose those, and then it pops out, right? So I think running metrics is a great way to start, so that those in your team and in your downline who are at potential levels that could consider this next, if you want to call it, conversation of potential leadership. And so, when you do those metrics and you come up with those numbers and those names of who to talk with, now how do you go about doing that, right? You just pick up the phone and say, hey, do you want to be a leader? Like, no, like it doesn't work like that, or shouldn't work like that. Right. And that's, one of the reasons why I do my weekly newsletter, right? Because I want people to know who I am, that it's not like, who is this person reaching out to me? I don't know who she is. And, an interesting fact that I learned prior to this conference was from our director of field development, Chris Whitaker. She shared that the majority of, let's say, consultants, team leaders that come into leadership are a result of downlines rolling up. Because we all know in this industry, people come and go, right? Like, it's the nature of what we do. So think about that. If you've never reached out below your people that you've brought on, and now someone leaves, right? And their downline rolls up to you because you're the next in line, and they've been with the company for a few years. They don't know who you are. You don't know who they are. And now all of a sudden they're like, who is this person? You're reaching out to them on the last day of the month to remind them to be active. They're like, what? Right? This is about them. This shouldn't be about you, right? So how do you establish that, before you get into running reports and having these, perspective conversations? And so that's why I do a weekly newsletter. It goes out. I have like 2,300 in my organization, right? And so it goes out to all 2,300 people once a week, and it's recognition, it's where to find stuff, it's what's happening, what training calls we have for the week. Not only is it for my people, right? It's also for leaders so that they have one place, one resource, one tool that they can come to, that they know they can find all the information on, and they can share it in their way, right? But it's one hub, I call it, to let everyone know on the team that they matter. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter if you're way level, like way down in the org. It doesn't matter. You contribute to this team, you're important. And you never know when life changes and people need more business, right? They want to do more, right? You never know when that happens. So don't have judgment that they're always going to be, they're always going to whatever. No, I've seen it happen in the 14 years that I've been with Lemongrass, where lives have changed and people that had zero intentions of becoming leaders and mentoring a team are now the best of the best. So you never know. So if they know who you are, now go back now to what I said about running those reports and how to have those conversations. When you do reach out to them to say something like, I've been watching you. Oh my God, you are like doing amazing. What changed? What's changed? I'd love to hear it. And speak authentically, like you really want to know, like what happened, what changed. Now they're feeling heard, they're feeling valued, they feel important, right? And so now they're sharing, you know what? Well, actually, I earned the trip for the first time. Or, I really discovered what it was like to have that extra few $100s a month. Like it paid my mortgage or it paid my car payment, or the recognition or whatever it is that they're telling you they like. Now you can take that and actually ask questions. That's where the hat switches from managing to mentoring, to coaching, to asking questions. And you can ask them, like, I noticed you picked, I don't know, income. Like that's what you were talking about. You were talking about the meaningful income that you've discovered recently. And tell me more about that. That is such a great question if you don't know what to ask. Tell me more. They will say whatever it is they'll say. Paid for my car payment, paid my daughter's dance classes, whatever it is. And then tell me more about that. Tell me more. And you will get it all whittled down to what their true passion is, what their true meaning behind what they want and what they need and what they're dreaming about achieving through asking that, tell me more. And when they answer that, you can ask a second question. Well, how do you see yourself now that you've discovered, what you love about earning this extra income now? Like, how do you see yourself achieving that again? How can I help you? How can we link arms? How can I support you in doing that? Let them talk. Again, you have to put on your listening ears. Don't be ready to speak, right? Without letting them tell you. You truly listen, because the next conversation will just roll based on how they lead. And if you don't know what to say, you don't know what to ask, tell me more, right? And the last question I'll just share on real quick is sometimes they're going to say, you know what, this sounds all great, but no, like I really don't want to do this. And you know what? That's okay too. That's okay too. So it's important to follow up with that. It's Eric Warr, if you've read his book, he always says, don't leave your conversation without the next appointment. I think that's so important, right? So before saying, okay, like I understand and just call it a day, you can ask, like, would it be all right if I followed up with you again in 6 months? Maybe your situation has changed, or, we can just have another conversation. I have yet to have someone say no, right? They might say, I'll call you, right? They might say that, but they're never saying no, don't, no, right?
Don't talk to me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think, if you start there, and if you, always say to them, like, I understand too, so they feel like they're being heard, they're being valued, you're not pushing them, you're not, like getting into more. No, listen, just actually listen. And you'd be surprised when you're your authentic self that people are more apt to, like, I like her, like she seems really genuine. So that's sort of the premise of what led and what we talked about, during the presentation.
I love everything that you shared. And I just want to toss a question at you because not everybody is going to have great leadership like yours that they can fall on or fall back on or rely on, and not everybody has the resources available to them. So if you had a message to give to someone who wanted to do more in their business, wanted to achieve leadership, but didn't have that upline support, what are a few tips that you can give them on how they can self promote? Like, what are consistent things that they need to be doing in their business, or little tips that they can do on a daily basis to help them grow their business?
Well, I think, you know what, it's sad if that's a reality in your business. Um, but I do think we are our own best advocates, right? And so I think consistency is everything. It is key in what we do. So whatever you do it consistently. So for example, if you have like if you were working full time, do a calendar blocking. I don't know if anyone has heard of that or has done that. I have many people in my downline that work full time, right? This is my job. This is what I do. This is my full time thing. But not everybody is doing that. So you need to look at your schedule and you need to time block. So if you're working 9 to 5, that's X'd off. You're not working your business. If you have school sports with your kids, you know, Tuesday and Thursday nights, X'd off, can't do that. Saturday mornings, I do yoga, X'd off, can't do that. When you're finished in your week, you will find those snippets of time that you are free. And yes, you can scroll on Facebook, and yes, you can watch TV, and yes, you can do all those other things because, oh, I just want to relax after the whole week. But if you set a timer, I love timers. Oh my gosh, the greatest thing. If you set a timer for 15 minutes of uninterrupted time, it's amazing what you can get done. So figure out in your week where you have those 15-minute blocks of time that you can sit down and be consistent in what you do. So again, whatever you do, if it's posting on Facebook, that's great to let people know that you're still doing this. But that's not an income producing activity, right? So we all do it. We get lost in that. Oh, I got to post. Oh, I posted today. I posted 5 times. Like, oh, yay. But that's not going to bring you what you want. It's just going to let people know that you're there, right? So one thing you can do is you can, start asking questions. You can go into groups on Facebook that are in your niche of what you do. Like for me, it's natural living, it's vegan products, it's whatever it is, clean living. You can go in those groups and start reading posts and start commenting on some posts. People start to get to know you through doing that. And that's something you can do consistently. Take a little bit of time on doing that. Another thing could be is you start doing something either online or in your home. I'm having an event in my house on the 18th of this month where I'm inviting people that I've met along the way to my home to try these products. If you don't feel comfortable doing it in your home, do it at a coffee shop. Do it somewhere else. It doesn't have to be in your home, but do it consistently. So it may start now with the first one. Now do one again right before in the fall, maybe the holidays. Have that date ready. So when you are meeting at your house with these people or at a coffee shop with people you've invited, you have your next date. By the way, I'm doing this again on. Save the date, right? So you can do things like that consistently. Eventually, the goal should be hopefully you're bringing on teammates. You're bringing on regular customers. You're bringing on people that would love to host, but maybe don't feel comfortable in their own home. If you start doing this regularly, invite them to your place. We can host here. We can, now it becomes a host event. It could become a team meeting in combination with sharing with new people that you've met. But again, consistency. Don't just do it once and then you're like, okay, I'm done now. No, you got to show up. That's the key. You got to show up regularly and in a way that it's like an income producing activity, as I like to call it. So just posting on Facebook, if it works for you, great. But the 99% of us, it does not, right? And we end up giving up in this industry way too soon when you could just tweak small things that you're doing. Follow up with your customers, another thing. I use Project Broadcast. That's a great tool, especially as leaders, but I use it for my follow-up. It's amazing. So every order I get, I plug it into Project Broadcast. I have, I think, 6 texts that go out regularly, one right after the purchase, one 3 weeks later, one 3 months after that, and then it's like, I think, every 2 months until I hit 6 right now. And it's just like friendly, reach out, and so that they don't fall through the cracks. Because I think so many of us don't follow up. They think they'll follow up with us, and man, that would be great if everyone did that, but they don't, right? They don't do that. And so it's up to us. And so again, it's just being consistent. And if you're starting small, you don't need to have these tools. You don't need to invest in those. You can do it yourself. But the key is you got to have it in somewhere. I have it in my phone where, I got to follow up with so-and-so. It's all in my calendar. I'm not a paper girl that way, not in calendar. I have to be on my phone. But I think just being consistent is what will get you to the next level. And in our company, which I hope other companies are, if you're in a community group with your company, reach out, send a private message to someone you admire. You know what? I really love what you do, and I could use some advice or some help. I will be shocked if they tell you, sorry, can't help you.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked.
That'd be really
So that's in our company. Like, we're big on helping. No matter what team you're on, we're there to help.
Yeah. Maybe talk about some leadership. I just finished listening to Bob Heilig's Love Led Leaders, which has completely switched my mindset on how to lead. You're not leading to get people to reach certain goals. You're being a leader to serve them, and it just brings the joy back into your business. So maybe we can talk about some do's and don'ts as a leader. I know, of my small team, sometimes I feel like the information I'm providing for them is not what they want to hear, because they're discounters. They're not running it as a business like I am. And I'm like, why aren't you doing what I'm doing? But they're just not, that's not where they are. So I do a weekly newsletter because I think, like you said, it's so important for your team to know who you are. And that's what I love about you, Marla. You don't just reach out to your team, but what do you say, 2,300 people get your email every single week. So how do you reach out to the ones who they're not doing it as a full-time job, and that is perfectly fine, but you want to stay in touch? So what are maybe some things we shouldn't do or should do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the top things that you shouldn't do is reach out to those people on the last day of the month. That is so cringeworthy. I see it happening. I see people, even consultants, posting, help a girl out. I'm so close to my goal, whatever it is. I mean, it's what gives this industry a bad rap, right? So definitely don't do that.
It should
Again,
never
it's
be
about
about
them.
us. It should never be about us.
It's about them.
Right.
And so for me, again, what I do is I do the third week of the month. I use Project Broadcast. Again, I use my business metrics. I plug in who is at risk of falling off, because in Lemongrass Spa, if you're not active within 2 months, then you're at risk of falling off and losing your title as a consultant. And even before that, I send out a message to my team, and I'll say, like, guys, this is who I am, and I want you all to to make sure that you don't lose your smart shopper discount, because as Lemongrass Spa, we get a 25% discount on all our personal shopping. So I don't want you to lose out on that. So if you don't want to lose that, are you okay with me reaching out, third week of the month, to remind you not to lose that? And they'll write, yes, please send a reminder. Yes, 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 yes. Right. So again. So that's how I introduce that. And now on this, I plug in the system, who's at risk of falling off, do my business metrics, and I will send a project broadcast message, right? That's direct to them saying, hey, I don't want you to risk losing this if it's not what you want. Because maybe it is what they want. They don't want to do this anymore. That's okay too. But if it's not what you want,
yeah,
right?
Sometimes I find too the people are staying in it because they don't want to disappoint you. And I hate that. I'm like, what? No, this is not about me. And they'll be like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? So I don't ever want my teammates to think that I need their business and my life is dependent on their business. And I don't know where that comes from, but have you found that? Like,
it's also, I could take it a step further. Sometimes they think that they have to be doing more. And when they don't do more, now they fall off because they're not selling. They're not that. Yeah. So why am I here? And they leave. But if you're giving them permission to be active every other month, or just for their personal use in their families, or Christmas gifts around the holidays, if birthday presents, if you're giving them permission to just do that, and it's okay to just do that, you will hang on to them.
Yeah.
They're going to stay. And then you don't know what happens. Now their youngest or their oldest daughter is now going to college, and they're like, oh my God, now I suddenly 5 years later, I need to start making some money. Right? Now it switches. And now they're there. They know who you are because you've been consistent with them. You haven't been pushing them. You're just giving them reminders, right? And it's on their terms. So I think, that is so important as a leader, so that you don't want to make it about you. You don't want to be like, hey, you haven't put in your order yet, right? I need to keep my title. You haven't done it. Yeah. My gosh, like how horrible is that? So if you make it about them and on their level and where they're at, it's not pushy, right? It's about them. And then I get the messages back. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you. They don't feel like I'm pushing them, right? They're like grateful for the reminder because they love the products and they want their 25% discount, right? So I think that's something that we all can do, whether you're a leader or you're not, is to, even if you've recruited one person, is don't be that person at the end of the month, making it about you. Always make it about them. And when you make it about them, you're asking about their families and you're commenting on their vacations, and you're building a relationship, because that's what we're in. This direct sales, what we do is a relationship business, right? It shouldn't be transactional. It should be a relationship. And so I think those are a couple of things definitely I would do.
I love that.
So here's a, go ahead. Do you want to go, Lisa?
I was just going to ask, not many, like I'm familiar with the term green by 15. I know this, you mentioned this in your conversation. But can you tell the listeners sort of what green by 15, you did dive into a bit about it, but how could that benefit them in their business if they focus on being green by 15, and what can they do from a consultant's point of view to help them grow their business by using the green by 15 method?
Well, for me, the green by 15, I use the in our host rewards, the minimum or what we like to achieve in host rewards is 300 volume. So that's what my green by 15 is. Those consultants or leaders, whoever, in their personal business, do 300 by the 15th of the month. So that's my baseline. Some do just being active. At Lemongrass Spa, being active is $25 a month, or $25 a month. I mean, it's nothing, right? So some people do that. If you're active with 25 in volume by the 15th of the month, great. Mine is 300. So that's because what I want to put out there, what I want repeated, right? Like that's kind of where my mindset goes. So I think if you can do 300 by the mid-month, then you're well on your way to achieving 500 by month end, right? And so if you're recently getting started with lemongrass, at 500, we have a jumpstart program. So for your first 3 months, at 500, now you're getting some money, you're getting products, you're getting recognition, like there's other things, right? So you're so close to that now. How to get that green by 15 is what I talked about, doing an event. Think about doing something in your home that first week of the month. Think about setting up some coffee chats. When I was growing my business back in the day, I did coffee chats. So besides having my once a month in my home, I did coffee chats, and my goal was always 3 a week. That was my goal. Did I achieve that every time? No. Totally fine. But that's what I strived for. And, from there, so get consistent with that. Plan all of that in your first 2 weeks of the month. Plan your in-home event if you can do it. And maybe it's not every month, maybe it's every other month, every 3 months. But plan something at the beginning of the month. Maybe it's an online party, whatever it is that works in your life, right? And so that's the beginning. I do my customer follow-up first 2 weeks of the month, right? So these are all things to focus on those first 2 weeks. From those events in your first 2 weeks, from your coffee chats in the first 2 weeks, from your customer follow-up in your first 2 weeks, now hopefully you have things that are scheduled in the last 2 weeks, right? So now your calendar is filling, right? But I 100% believe in front loading your month. I like to think of green by 15, the 15th, as month end, right? Get people to change that mindset, because if we keep with the last day, nothing happens in the first 2 weeks. Third week, we maybe start something. Last week, we're scrambling. And I see it as a leader. My gosh, month end, I'm watching those numbers, boom, 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 like they're going. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I'm going to bed, guys, 10 o'clock. See ya. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And I'm training my people to not do that, to not be nail biting. Month end, nothing worse than nail biting. Month end, I've been there. I know what that's like. Don't want it. Yeah. So to change the mindset, to make it the 15th of the month, start with yourself, doing the things, then train your team. And I've been doing this for a long time now. And so because my organization is so large, I can't possibly recognize and give incentives to everyone that does green by 15. That would be, I'd be insane to do that. But now it's a drawing. So people, we have a Facebook page and they screenshot their volumes. So I'm not looking for it. They know what I do. They screenshot their volumes. They post it in the thread. It's a featured thread in our group. They post it. I add everybody's name into a spin wheel. And at the end or the beginning of the following month, I draw names, and it can be 3 names, 4 names, 5 names. It just depends on what the drawing is. And it's from money and gift cards to logo wear to whatever. It changes up every month, but that's how I do my green by 15.
And I love that.
And it's sorry, Susan, I was just going to say, it's a great thing for the average consultant to have that mindset in their business too, that, focus on the front load of the month, focus on the green by 15, because like you said, you're not going to end up scrambling at the end of the month, and your leader isn't going to get a call. I'm trying to put it in order and the system is down, and what do I do? So yeah.
Yes. Yes. And again, you know what? Like I said, I've been doing this for 14 years with the same company, and you learn along the way. That's the other thing. Don't think you have to know it all, right? Be your authentic self, show your vulnerability, right? Because that's the other thing. You don't want people to go, oh, I can't be her. I can't do that, right? You want them to be like, I can do that. And I think I might even be able to do it better, right? Like just like as a consultant doing a party or whatever, my goal was always, I wanted people there to go, oh my gosh, she's a hot mess. I think I could do this better, right? Like that's what I always wanted. I wanted to be real. I wanted to be, I don't know this. When someone would say, hey, what's in that product? I'd be, I don't know. Let's read the ingredients together. And I'd pick it up and I'd read it. And I'd be, oh, I didn't know that was, in there, like that essential oil or whatever. Just be real, be raw, be you. And people are going to want that too, right? And then leaders are going to be like, wow, she could do this, And she has no sales experience and she never thought about doing this. She, I think might be able to do it too. Right. And it's baby steps along the way. Learn as you grow, ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail. Right. You're not failing. You're learning a new way not to do it. Right. But you're not failing. So I don't know. My thoughts.
One thing that was interesting that you said when you do the Green by 15, you don't put everyone's name in a wheel. You didn't run your report and say all 1,000 of these people go in a wheel. You put it on them. If you are Green by 15, I want you to let me know. And I love that because, it's an incentive. It's a reward. And you want them to be looking at their numbers and to reach certain goals, but you put it on them. You don't just, like you said, you don't reward every single person who hits Green by 15 because the people who are not invested, they just do it like by accident or by, replenishing their own supply. We're looking for the business builders. We're looking to reward those who are aware of their business, aware of their numbers, and always reaching towards certain goals. So I love that. So one thing I want to ask.
It's also a great way too to follow up with them, right? Remember I said before, you're looking for your potential leaders.
Right.
So through that list, you can look for consistency every month. Who is consistently Green by 15?
Yeah.
Who is doing that? There's a potential conversation, right? With somebody. It's a way to see who's working their business. Have they ever thought about where this could lead? That kind of thing. And so it's also a tool. Besides being recognition, something fun, it's also something that you can use as a leader to figure out those potential people in your team or organization.
I love that. One thing I want to ask you and Lisa, this is kind of a controversial thing. I've heard two different ways. So when I recognize every week in my newsletter, I recognize the top 10 in sales. And Marla, I know you do the same thing with your upper level leaders and your consultants and team leaders. I have heard that you should include my numbers in that so that people know where I am. But I've also heard you should not include yourself. Like I am always the top in my team. 100% of the time. Maybe once in my lifetime I wasn't the top. So is it more defeating for my team to see my numbers and be like, well, Susan's the top again. Like, what's the big deal? Should I leave myself out of that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for me, I put myself in.
Okay.
That is mine. And for many, many years, I led the pack.
Yeah.
I led the pack. Yeah. And that was part of, in the beginning, where I felt, I don't know if I can do this, because as leaders started to surpass me, as consultants started to surpass me in their volumes, I thought, oh my gosh, as the leader, you're supposed to be leading the pack. I should be leading the pack. And that is wrong, right? That is not the way it should be. And so now I'm proud to say that I am not always the leader in the pack. And so I have downline that have surpassed me. And I think it's important to show them that, yes, I'm working my business. Yes, I'm working hard. But you may have some months where life happens and you know what? You're not doing as much. And that's okay too, right? Yeah. Let them see you raw and real and living life normally. I think it's important. However, I am not part of the incentive. Right. So when in the spin wheel, my name isn't in there, like I'm not picking up a spot, but I do show them, right? I do show them what I do. And I do show them, if I recruit, my name's mentioned in there and who I brought on. And some months it is only me, right? That's in there. It's okay because I'm part of this team too. I may be leading a team, but I'm also a consultant, right? And so this is what I'm doing as well. But I no longer feel like I have to lead the pack.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think for you, don't feel like I'm always leading the pack. These are just my numbers.
Yeah.
Change it that I'm not always leading the pack. Your mindset on that. And maybe you'll see maybe a shift.
Yeah. I just didn't know if it was, I don't know. You've heard people say too, like you shouldn't include yourself in there. If someone were to have more in sales than me, I would celebrate them. Like, and someone has come close. So I would not feel like, oh my gosh, like I need to step up my game. I would absolutely celebrate them. But Lisa, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I put my name in there. Your name needs to be in there, because just think about that person that does beat the leader, we used to call it, for that month. Like how excited they are to see that their name is above yours in the
Yep.
list. And if your name isn't in there, I feel anyway, like if there could be something that you're hiding, or, and like Marla said, you got to keep it real. Like sometimes life happens and they'll notice that there's a drop in your sales, and that's okay, right?
Hmm.
Because you need it to deal with life that month. And you know what? Next month you're back at it and you're up, your sales are up again, your sponsoring is up again. And I think it's just authentic to show them that the ebb and the flow in the business, that it can happen and you could still lead a successful business. So I think it's very important that your name be in there. I had a very weird situation where my upline, she was always not just the top in our organization, but the top in the company. So she was having months of like 15, $20,000 in sales, and then everybody else was like, maybe 2,000, 1,000. And so there was like a huge difference. So she always felt bad in showing that, and I'm like, but people just need to be realistic. Like that is doable, you can be her,
Hmm.
but the norm, look at the norm. This is the norm, and it's okay for you to fall within that range. So it
Yeah.
was a little defeating at the beginning to see her numbers and like, oh my, how can I not do that? Right? She's doing that and I can't. But it was also great to see where you fell amongst the rest of the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I totally agree.
That helps. One thing that I'm going to go back to something that Bob said, and you all can agree or disagree. He said, even if you don't have any team at all, if it's just you, you are a leader because you are leading yourself. And he said, think about how you're leading yourself. How are you getting fed? What are you listening to? Is it podcasts on leadership, or is it trainings on sales or recruiting? So even if you don't have a team at all, know that this conversation is for you where you are. Either you're applying it to yourself or you're preparing yourself for when you do have that first recruit or that, number 10 join your team. So I think everything that was said here is just super valuable. And, maybe you're using the information now with your team, or maybe you're just kind of tucking this information away for future leader.
Yeah, it's you know what it is so important because I always say you're a leader of one, right? You're a leader of one. But again, if you don't believe that you're deserving of it, then it doesn't matter the trainings, it doesn't matter the books you read, it doesn't matter attending conference, it doesn't matter any of it. You'll go home with all these nuggets that you picked up
Mhm.
and do nothing because you don't believe,
Mm,
right? And so I think that is where there's the problem in those that wanting to thinking about leadership or thinking they can't do it is because of the lack of belief, right? And I think that's where all the things we talked about, even if you pick out like one little nugget that you can make a change today in, start there. You
mhm.
don't have to go in and go, oh my gosh, I'm going to do a Green by 15. I'm going to do a weekly newsletter. I'm going to have an event in my home. I'm going to set up 3 coffee chats. Like, oh my God, right? Like, no, 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 no. Pick one thing and that resonated with you and do it your way. Do the time blocking in your calendar. Figure out when you can do something consistently and start there, right? Get a little bit of successes, the little ones, right? Little successes behind you can help
Mhm.
fuel you to do more as it fits in. Because if you try to do it all and you're scared to do it all, and you don't do it all, because who does? You're
Mhm.
going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to stop and you're going to say, I can't do this. And you're going to, never mind being a leader, you're going to stop potentially your business, and it's going to all fall. And there's zero reason for that, because each and every one of us is good enough right now
Mm,
to lead a team, right? We're all good enough to lead a
yeah.
team. And I think that is what's so important, and what I want for leaders listening today to know, that you are good enough right now. You have the vision, you have the heart, you can do it now.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. All right, Marla, I don't know if Susan prepped you for this, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I think you'll have it. I always ask the guests to share a favorite quote or a piece of advice that they think that every direct seller needs to hear.
Actually,
Prep her.
I
Yes.
do have one. I do have one. I actually have a couple, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The one I like to share, and it's my own quote too, so it's something that I say, is, don't try to be perfect. Just work on being authentic. I would rather follow a leader who is always real versus a leader who is always right. So that's a quote I like. And the other one I like is, you can't give up leading even when life happens.
Mm.
So that's what I see a lot, is when life happens, their business goes to the back burner. And you can't do that. You can't do that as a business owner, because that's what we are. We're business owners. And you can't do that as a leader. It doesn't mean it won't look different because life happens, but you can't stop showing up, leading, just because life happens.
Yeah. You can't
I
stop
love those.
yeah. The relationships
No,
don't end.
yeah. I love when the quotes give me goosebumps. So that's always a good one. uh, all right, Marla. Well, before we end, I would love for you to tell the listeners where they can find you if they wanted to reach out to you on social.
I'm on Facebook. What is it? It's Natural Living is on Facebook. Also, my name, Marla Nemanic. You can find me that way. I am not on Instagram. Whoa, that's a huge one, right? I am not on Instagram, people. I'm more in person. That's my jam. I like to meet in person, like I said, the coffee chats and all that. So Facebook is for my team, and Facebook is to let people know that I'm still doing this after all these years.
All right.
But you can find me there. You can find me there, and yeah, I would love to connect. Anyway, any which way, I'm on Messenger. Like, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. I'm happy any way I can. I'm there for anyone.
I appreciate it. And I thank you so much for joining us as a guest on our episode. And I know there's going to be tons of little nuggets that people have taken away from what you've shared. So I hope that everybody has enjoyed what Marla has to share. And I hope to see you next week on another episode of The Other 99%. Take care, everyone. Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Other 99%. We just want to say thank you. It truly means the world to us that you're here. Lisa and I absolutely love creating these episodes for you, and we're so grateful to have you in our community. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like, share with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. We drop fresh content every Tuesday. Got thoughts, questions, or ideas? Leave us a comment. Want to be a guest on the show? We would love to chat with you. Apply by clicking the link in the show notes. Thanks again for spending time with us today, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Other 99%.